Okay, everybody, it's James, otherwise known as Escape Punk Lefty, finally back here with another video. Or not really finally, because it's basically I've been posting a video every single day for a month or longer, probably till September. I'll be posting a video every day, and I might slow down around September, depending on how the channel like grows or what what I have going on in life and what have you. But I got free time on my hands, so I might as well get back into this YouTube game. So the person that brought this video to my attention was a YouTuber that inspired me to come back to YouTube and continue to make videos, which is a guy from the channel called Why I Hate Politics. He was doing a step-by-step debunking of this guy, and he hated this guy, and he was saying as much as he's a fraud as anybody else. But I think that, don't get me wrong, I'm going to debunk the things that this person says, right? But I think that we take black conservatives too seriously. We take these people seriously as like they're some sort of intellectual, and we miss out on the fact that these people are nothing short of just propagandists and frauds pushing a certain agenda about certain groups of people or for certain reasons. And and I just really wanted to get into that here, because I think that when we cover people like this, we cannot again take them seriously or take their words for anything that really has value. These people deserve to be made fun of in a harsh way for the frauds that they seriously are. So today we're gonna find out. You type in woke on YouTube, all type of trash come up. Is woke dead and gone forever? Let's see.
A lot has actually changed in
I
America since that time, since that, the political crucible that.
Because I actually have my opinions, but I'm going to sort of take my time as I go forward with talking about how I feel about some of the stuff he says as we go.
I came of age in was the crucible of wokeness, and Trump won, and I now feel like we are just meaningfully in a different era, right? We're facing a different set of problems, a set of problems that's related and reactionary to the convulsions the country went through in between say 2014 and 2022. But we've like turned the page in a way, and I don't think I've talked to you about that, or like sort of in the time where we can really say definitively we've turned a page, we're facing a new set of problems, and we need to be talking and thinking about them maybe differently. So I guess my first thing to tee up for you is, like, how do you agree that we're in a post wokeness America, at least post this iteration of it? And how do you think we should be talking and thinking differently about the new challenges that we're facing?
Well, I think that the era of a particularly abusive kind of wokeness that permeated in particular academia and the arts starting in 2020, that era is past us. Wokeness.
I mean, I really don't think so. And I say this as somebody, of course, and it's hard to believe that these people are such frauds and disgusting people that they will weaponize their credentials that they've got from universities to prop up conspiracy theories, white supremacy, and all sorts of anti-worker like banana nonsense. Number one, dude, and I'm going to answer for him before he talks, but the idea of people being woke is not going anywhere anytime soon. I don't know why people think that because things are, Donald Trump got into office, that means things are going to be less woke or stop progressing. Forward thinking, intelligent people, both in arts and academia, or just generally in society in general, just like, on the street, are going to always exist. These people aren't going anywhere. And these people are going to get the credentials also that's necessary to push their ideas forward. Shit. And to an extent, right, Donald Trump, his elections, both of them was a reaction to society getting more woke, because people are desperate to slow down progress, but it's like a boulder crushing an ant. at the end of the day, progressive ideas will prevail and will be the way forward for the country and possibly, at least to an extent, some of the world. And this idea that you can just stop progress because you got a president in office and you paid a couple of people to say stupid things is just certainly not the case. Because these people, they really think that because Donald Trump is in office, you have most of the media complicit to the things that Donald Trump does and says, that somehow that people that are forward thinking and actually intelligent, and they use their intelligence for good, are somehow, out of it, when, again, that's just certainly would never be the case.
This is still very much in play in both of those institutions, but not in the nearly violent way that it was in the bad old days. But the idea that woke is over that I see in social media, I would say not necessarily. If we're talking about punitive attitude, where you have an extreme leftist view about something, are not interested in engaging in reasoning, and are ready to interfere with the life of someone who disagrees, to excommunicate.
Yeah, I'm starting to remember why I came across this video. Nobody has an extreme view about some things that aren't requiring of conversation. The problem is that we will have a conversations with lots of conservatives and fascist provocateurs, but your point is not to take understanding and a sort of an antithesis away from the conversation. You are here to push bigotry, ignorance, and backwards thinking. You are here to literally defend wrong answers about basic social, economic, political, and scientific problems. And this is why you butt heads with academics so much. And number two, we have this idea that the left is trying to force you to live a certain way, when the right is constantly shoving Christian evangelical values down everybody's throat, trying to make you love the flag. These people are literally right, and this includes, from what I said earlier with the complicit media, every last one of these people try to force you to love or like Donald Trump, when we see Donald Trump as the abject failure and the piece of shit that he is. But if you don't like Donald Trump, you have Trump derangement syndrome. There's something wrong with you. You got to get down with what we're saying, or we're going to figure out a way to either talk over you and drown your voice in a sea of lies, or we're going to try to emasculate you. It's always something going on when people don't disagree with the right. To the extent where Donald Trump literally was talking about full-on authoritarianism, deporting the enemy within. So miss me with this idea right on, and this goes for every issue, whether it's talking about marriage, discussions about misogyny, race, union work. Conservatives are wrong on every single issue, and because people won't accept your conversation as being correct in some way or another, doesn't mean people are ignorant. That just means people are tired of hearing bullshit. And I don't really know what to tell you on that. It's just that when it comes to these basic issues, systemic racism, transphobia, wealth redistribution, there are correct answers and those are incorrect answers. Now, if you're somebody on the street that doesn't know because you don't have a high school diploma, I will believe that you don't understand some of these issues. But if you're somebody from an accredited university like yourself telling me that the black community is the way that it is because rap music and lack of accountability, then I don't believe that you're a serious person. You're, again, a propagandist here to push a narrative. So why should I take you seriously or have a conversation with you? Well, I have a conversation with you, but don't get mad if I make fun of you during it.
Communicator, defenestrated, I often said back in 2021. That is still with us. It's just that it's applied to different subjects. It's exactly the mood of the campus protests.
Oh boy.
About the Israel-Palestine issue. If there had been protests against that, I hate sounding so old, but I am twice 30.
If there were protests against that, there were protests against Israeli apartheid. Shit, there were terrorists of all sorts, right? Left-wing Islamic extremists. There were protests themselves and stuff. Although not all necessarily related, but this has been an issue since 1948. So this idea that protests against Israel, are new, is asinine, because it was clear to everybody that what was going on in Israel at that time was a part of the Cold War political project for a Western-backed nation to take control of the Middle East at the expense of the indigenous people living there. people knew that since Israel's inception, and people on the left have never in any way accepted Israel and always protested Israel as being a part of the problems that we deal with here. So that's a lie.
At this point, when I was in college, there were protests about things like that, but it wasn't about breaking windows. It wasn't about...
It never is.
It wasn't about ostracization. It wasn't about breaking into a building and practically tearing down one of the floors.
These people always got to go in with such loaded language. Number one, every single protest does not even get violent. There are students all over the country that go to their college campuses and they protest. It just really depends on what happens. And what's funny about a lot of these riots becoming riots, they're often at the time police riots, because the police are ordered to disperse protests in sort of an aggressive way. They're taught to go in like a military and beat people into submission, to basically say, if you protest, this is what'll happen to you. We'll hit you with a charge. We'll tear gas and mace you. You got fucking like 250-pound, 6'4" police officers punching like little lesbian girls because they're holding a sign that says like peace in Palestine or something like that. And you think I'm supposed to side with the police, or the things that they're protesting over the protesters. Number two, when it comes to protests, especially when people are running from the police and being combative with the police, of course damage to the structures is going to happen, but the political problems that are causing people to behave that way still go unaddressed, so the cycle keeps repeating. So this is a very one-track minded way already of looking at this complicated political issue, instead of looking at it with nuance and understanding for the people that are protesting, and at least trying to see why they're protesting.
Happened with Hamilton. None of that happened. The reason that it happened that way a couple of years ago was because of the model of the new woke mood, and some of the exact same people were really the ones holding the cudgels. And so there's that. And also, trans issues are complicated. They really are. It's at a point where on various aspects of the trans issue, I can't say anything yet because I'm not there. I barely know anybody who is, and you don't want to be glib about those things. But I would also say that it's obvious that the leaders of the trans movement, especially
who are the leaders of the trans movement? Who the fuck is that? Because that person doesn't exist. I wouldn't even say there's a specific trans movement. Now, there's trans rights activists, and there's a veneer of activism around a group of people who face certain persecution on the basis of being trans. But this idea that there's some sort of trans activist group with a leader is it's an asinine assumption. If so, tell me the name of the group and tell me who the leaders are.
Since 20 have taken on that prosecutorial, anti-reasoning attitude.
I mean, not really. You people are just bigots. And I hate to keep pausing it every 30 seconds, or every couple of seconds. That's the problem with right-wing propaganda. These people do a tactic that I like to call, well, Steve Bannon coined it, and Christopher Rufo, I think, has something to do with it too. It's called flood the zone. So they will flood conversations about very complex issues with bigotries, dog whistles, thought-terminating cliches, and red herrings in order to prevent people, especially in their audiences, from thinking about these complex issues, right? So it's like every other second this guy is saying something extremely loaded and stupid, and the only way I can keep up with him is by pausing it. I'm probably going to only go 5 minutes into his video, but it's just like there is, because the problem comes from here when it comes to trans people. If you want my opinion about trans people, right? If you were to get any video, you were to clip it out, here it is. So I think that the number one important thing people in America need to do is that good old American tradition of minding their own damn business, right? This is before we talk about the science. This is before we talk about who's a man, who's a woman. This is before we talk about who's agendered and have, both or whatever else the fuck is going on. I think people just need to mind their own business. I think the conversation about trans people starts there before we go into any of the sciences. People are constantly in other people's pants trying to police what other people can be, what other people can look like, and what other people can do. And it's not because they're quote unquote concerned about women, especially from a misogynist movement. Come on now, be real. These are the same niggas, and I will say it like that. They're like 55 talking about they won't want 22-year-old girlfriends, you're telling me that these same guys on that side of the political aisle actually care about women's rights and women's well-being. I mean, maybe if you're stupid, you believe that. But the point being is just kind of like, this isn't about, this line of inquiry isn't about understanding who trans people are, because it's easy to understand that, even if you were to take the nuance away from it, this is a person who woke up in the morning and decided they wanted to be something different. You don't need to ostracize, bully, or police that person because they woke up in the morning and decide they want to do something different. And it goes for any subject, right? And we damn sure should not be allowing this so-called trans issue, which are people that are less than 1% of the population, to occupy so much political oxygen that things about healthcare, wages, the shit that's happening with the EPA and the data centers get crowded out by you telling the same story about, oh, what's a woman? What's a woman? It's like, come on, dude. Like, how many fucking years can you say that while there's less and less housing, wages are not keeping up with inflation, more young people, especially young men, especially young white men, ironically enough, are just giving up and just staying home with their parents. But, instead of actually solving these problems, you got people, what's a woman? What's a woman? I mean, it could be somebody that don't want to call you back. But the point being is that, yeah, this is a non-issue by that was pushed into the limelight, obviously, by billionaire funded propagandists that want something out of the American people that's not going to benefit any of us. So that's my take on the trans issue, and I'm probably not going to try to dispute anything else he says, but if anybody ever wondered on this channel, that's my opinion.
And I hate to say that a lot of them are still doing it, and they're modeling that on what they hoped would work in 2020 and 2021, which frankly, in terms of creating a racial reckoning, maybe there was a racial reckoning, but it would be hard to say here in 2026 exactly what it led to. And I think really what we need to be thinking about now is that the idea that America's main problem sociologically is that black people have never quite gotten what we're owed, that there's still a shoe that hasn't dropped. That's really worn out at this point, and a lot of it.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's a worn out issue, and I wouldn't even necessarily say it's the number one issue. It's the number one priority to some people, and to some people it's not. The main issue comes down to America not atoning to anybody. The U.S. government is rarely held accountable to anybody for the things that it's done over the past 250 years. And that's the problem, period, right? And that comes with capitalism, that comes with white supremacy, misogyny, homophobia, that comes with people having, all these things that were put in front of them, these barriers and social problems created by the government, and with people like Lee Atwater and Richard Nixon saying that they did these things out loud, with Ronald Reagan saying that he's done these things out loud. And instead of atoning for the horrible things that's done happen over the past 250 years, we have people like you that come apologize for it and say that, oh, that's not problem number one. And sure, we can say that reparations might not be overall America's number one plan, but that doesn't mean that it's irrelevant or that it's not worth conversation about what would the world be like if black people got full restitution for the horrible things that we, and I'm saying we, nigga, have been through.
Because there are just too many other kinds of people in the country. I was thinking actually just this morning before this interview about how when I was in college, really, to oversimplify, there were white people, black people, and a few Latinos. The Immigration Act of 1965 had not led to a whole lot of college students of other extractions yet. And so I barely knew an East Asian, barely knew a South Asian. They just were not part of the equation. And now we have so many people with so many different kinds of problems, and it's never going to be the way it was before. And I find myself watching someone like Chicago's mayor, Brandon Johnson.
Here we go.
And he's clearly minted right in the era of black power and root causes, the idea that no black person can really do anything wrong because of our history.
I mean, the points are not that black people cannot do anything wrong. No activist actually says that, or politician. The point is that the conditions created by white supremacist political, economic, and social policies have created situations where we will often at a time see a lot of black individuals misbehave. And ironically enough, a lot of these policies have cascading effects that cause working class people of all races trouble. So this idea that people are just apologizing for the worst people in our community without context is again another statement without context of what that mayor is actually saying or activists actually say in general. And I think it's really stupid of this guy to really strip that of its nuance and context to just say that people say blacks can't do anything wrong. I guess, it's just saying stupid things that racist people want to hear or self-haters want to hear.
And to me, and I think to an increasing number of people, he looks tinny now. He talks in a way that would have been considered very urgent and very Jesse Jackson-esque in 1982. It doesn't work now. He's becoming a relic of another time.
I don't really think that he's a relic of his time. I'm going to try to go about 2 more minutes with this video. I just think that the guy is probably emulating people that he looks up to, and that's just fine. Certain speech patterns gets sort of revolutionary ideas flowing back in the black community, and even if he's doing a bit, I say that it's okay. And then number 2, when it comes down to activism and black power movements in general, there is no such thing of this stuff being a relic of the past. It's very necessary now. A couple of weeks ago, a white terrorist was going around calling black people the N-word. You got Donald Trump getting rid of DEI programs, which has led to a mass firing of especially black women with jobs in the federal government. So this idea that black revolutionary ideas or black people that are speaking about black issues and about white supremacy in this way aren't necessary is an opinion only held by somebody that's not trying to have a real conversation. This is something that a propagandist will say because they have a certain agenda that they're trying to push forward, which is white supremacy.
But he won't be reelected, and that type is going to be ever rarer. We need, frankly, more cosmopolitan.
Their black revolutionary thought isn't going anywhere. It's right here in me criticizing you, a black conservative Sambo. This idea that over a certain time period that black people are because it's like our problems, number 1, aren't completely disappearing. Number 2, there's never been restitution for the things that we have gone through. And number 3, black people are still used as political pawns in capitalism and white supremacy for people to vote and organize against their own interests. And 4, people like you exist that oversimplify problems in the black community for white ears and white visage instead of actually having real, raw, and ugly discussions about the things that black Americans deal with or just black people in general. So black revolutionaries like myself aren't going anywhere, if that's the point that's trying to be made here about woke going somewhere, quote unquote.
And frankly, more honest people as our black leaders. There won't be any one black leader, but black leaders. And so that's where I think we am. It's gotten to the point that when someone comes along who thinks that we're still in the era where black grievance is something that a significant number of whites are ready to just lay down and change the rules for, I see that kind of person and I almost feel sorry for them because I can.
What do you mean feel sorry for? This is that like pandering and talking down to black individuals who actually want to address black problems. And I think that's kind of and it's just, I guess there's no other way to say it. It's just condescending and stupid. These so-called grievances that you speak of have never disappeared. There's never been restitution paid to black people, and all the laws on the books that were put up on the books still haven't been changed enough to actually make it so black people have a fair shot. And in fact, we have the Trump administration right now and other Republican administrations that are actually trying to undo black progress. Look at what Clarence Thomas just did to the Voting Rights Act. So this idea, and it's like not even talking about things that are past, right? You have racist people and their complicit colored enablers still doing things to hurt black people today. So that's why you will never see an end to like, black revolutionaries, whether we're talking people on the far left like myself or even liberals, because as long as white supremacy keeps rearing its ugly head, Not every black person is just going to lay down and take and just take this rhetoric as being the normal or like it's okay. People are going to speak out. People are going to protest. People are going to march. And I don't want to take too long covering this video, because if that's the point that he's trying to make, is that woke is going to go somewhere, or that black people are going to quote unquote give up or something like that on, because I think that's a ridiculous statement among itself on socioeconomic progress, because some white people are made uncomfortable by it. I think it's a dishonest dissertation of the black community in a complete ignorance about the problems that we deal with, not to mention the fact that it's also ignoring the fact that there's modern day issues too. This video by this guy Coleman Hughes, I didn't know about this guy, now I know about him, so maybe as he does and says more and more stupid shit, I will check out the videos, you know, more and more. I'll come by him like I do the Black Conservative Perspective or Brandon Tatum and so forth. But yeah, this guy is pretending, he's weaponizing his university credentials to defend and uphold white supremacy, and he should be ashamed of himself. This has been Escape Punk Lefty with another video.